My guest today is one of the greatest swimmers in Arizona State history. She earned a total of 9 All-American awards and she set a multitude of school records. In 2022, she was inducted into the Sun Devil Athletics Hall of Fame, cementing her incredible legacy in Tempe, the one and only Caitlin Andrew. Caitlin, such an honor to be chatting with you today. Truly an honor. Truly an honor. Yeah, I mean, not much else I can say.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Of course, of course. It's an honor to have you. Now I've seen, and I gotta say this, I've seen that you are really, really good at handstands. It's pretty impressive. How did you get so good at them?
It's just been like a hobby or a passion. Some people pick up, I don't know, plants or knitting or puzzles or something, and I always thought handstands were so cool. So I did do gymnastics as like a little girl, but as an adult, I was like, no, I want to still be able to do that. And so it just became like wherever I go, I gotta do handstands.
Oh my God, wow, that's really cool. Let's see if you don't mind me asking, what would you say is the most interesting place that you've done a handstand at?
Mm. I mean, obviously the ones that have like a great view, a great backdrop is great. I went to the Galapagos Islands with my aunt a couple years back, and we did a hike that had a lagoon, or was a freshwater lake that then overlooked the lagoon where the boat was docked. And so that one was pretty cool. It it was definitely a one to remember.
Hey, nice, nice. Now, what sparked your interest in competitive swimming?
It's a family sport. My dad was a competitive swimmer. He swam in his college years. His whole family were swimmers. My dad was the only one that ended up swimming at the collegiate level, but the rest of he has three siblings. They all swam when they were growing up. My brother was a swimmer in high school. We both swam and played water polo, and then my brother ended up going on to University of Texas to play water polo, and then of course I went the other way and ended up doing swimming um, out in the desert. So it was in my blood since before I was born.
Hey, right on, right on. And you mentioned your father, and what's really cool about that is you attended Marshall High School in San Antonio, where your father was the swim coach. It's super cool. What was that experience like being coached by your father?
It was great. He has a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor. He's was obviously a teacher as well, and so I was also in his class. Having that sense of humor that of course I grew up with it. So to me it was the greatest thing ever. And so to see all these other people see how cool my dad was in the pool and in the classroom, I was like, yeah, this is pretty great. But he is always a very positive coach, um, lots of encouragement. And yes, there's always something that you can improve on for next time, but overall, just a really positive when it came to like being on the pool deck. So it was great.
Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, how did you decide to attend Arizona State?
I had a lot of help from my college club coach. So I swam high school, but I also swam year round with a club team. And that club coach had been in the swimming industry and coaching for decades. So he was a wealth of knowledge. George Block, I love the man. He was definitely a mentor at that point in my life. Kind of helped guide me in the right direction. I started by just taking the women's placement from the national championship from the previous 3 years and kind of see where the teams were because I wanted to go somewhere that had a great program that could perform at the high level. And then it was really important to me to be somewhere warm. I am from South Texas. I still live in South Texas. I hate cold weather. That played a huge role into what schools I looked at. I'm not going to lie. And then the men's and women's team, different places do it differently. I was really interested in the men and women training together. ASU at the time had that. And then the coach. This was something that my club coach hit the nail on the head about. He knew that I would respect and take a lot more out of a coach that had been around for a little bit longer. I don't want to say an old coach versus a young coach, but with any profession or job experience comes with time. And so Mike Chaston was definitely fit the bill there.
Hey, that's great. That's great. What were some of the other schools that you were kind of looking at before landing on ASU?
Yeah, being from South Texas, A&M and University of Texas were both ones that highly recruited me, as well as SMU, Southern Methodist University up in the Dallas area, and then Auburn. At the time, Auburn was the women's team to beat in the swimming field, and so they still do have an excellent program out there. So I did take a trip out to Auburn to see their campus.
It's funny you mentioned SMU. That is my neck of the woods. I was born and raised in Dallas. So
Oh yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yes. We would attend a swim meet on their campus every summer. So I was also pretty familiar with their campus just from college swim meets or high school swim meets.
You know, in your freshman year, what was it like adjusting to college life?
I think I was ready for it. I being in high school and living with the parents, and I was real big on wanting to leave San Antonio for college and ideally leave the state. I wanted to go play somewhere new, somewhere different. I didn't realize this until after my freshman year, coming back and seeing some of my old high school friends, like how much you grow as a person going somewhere new. So for me, it was going somewhere new, completely out of my element, very unfamiliar, had never been there before besides a recruiting trip that really makes a person grow and open their eyes to so many different things. So I was ready for it. So I embraced it. Living in the dorms was awesome. I thought at the time, and it puts you right on campus. So I was right next to the pool. You know, you walked across the street to to get to campus. We were in PV East, so everything was close. It was a great little community. I loved it.
And in your freshman year, you established yourself as one of the best swimmers in the nation. How big was it for you to have such a successful freshman season to really lay the groundwork for the following 3 years?
I think I surprised myself. The Pac-10 at the time, it's no longer the Pac-10, but I mean, we had Stanford, Cal, USC, Arizona. These are some big name schools, and I learned that there are some big name swimmers at a lot of those schools. So as a freshman, I was definitely pretty intimidated that I was going to be swimming against these other ladies. And kind of surprised myself. I dropped a lot of time my freshman year, changing from, my high school program that I had been for 4 years into college, which is, strength and conditioning. That was all new to me. Your types and styles of workouts in the college level was so different. It worked really well, and I dropped a lot of time. So I definitely surprised myself. And I think that then gave me the confidence that I was like, well, this is literally just the beginning. This is your freshman year. There's so much ahead of you. Don't cut yourself short.
Overall, what would you say were the key ingredients to your amazing success at ASU?
I'm definitely going to go back to that strength and conditioning, having the Olympic level weightlifting, the coaches there that had their expertise in it. As a very slim high school girl, when it comes to putting on muscle and getting stronger, like that was the recipe. What they had going on there at the time was great. Mike was our head coach, but we had 2 to 3 assistant coaches, and they all had their unique way of coaching and getting across to you. And I worked with all of them, some more than others. And so it was building relationships with each one of them realizing what kind of athlete, what kind of swimmer I was, what kind of motivation I needed day in and day out. And it was just a good mix. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those athletes that if the coach came to the end of my lane and started screaming at me to go faster or do better, I did. It doesn't work for everyone, and I understand that, but at the time in my life, that was what was what I needed for sure.
You know, right on, right on. Now, you were senior captain in your last year in Tempe. How do you think you grew as a leader from your freshman year to your senior year?
I definitely grew a lot as an individual. I feel like most people at that age in their life, there's a lot of growth that occurs there. But as far as coming to a leader, I gained a lot more respect for leaders. I hadn't really had that opportunity to do much of that type of leading before, and I was like, nah, it's easy, it's fine. But being put in that and having a group of girls underneath you or looking to you, it's not as easy as it looks. So it definitely gave me a lot more respect when it comes to leaders in any role, any shape, any form, for sure.
Are there any specific meets or events that really stand out to you the most from your career at Arizona State?
There are. I think one of my favorite meets was we swam Minnesota in January. And because the NC2As was going to be there later in the spring. So we flew out to Minnesota in January and we were staying in a hotel that was across this parking lot from the pool. So we just walked back and forth. And it was like record cold. I think the entire weekend that we were there, the high was like 6 degrees. And so when we would walk back and forth, our hair would freeze. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I thought it was the funniest part about that weekend. Um, that is definitely very memorable that your hair was freezing. I think some of the other meet, every time we swam Stanford at Stanford, they, their pool, the way it was set up, is much more intimate, and they swam their men's and women's like separate. So we was just the women's team swimming, and the men's team was at the hotel or somewhere else at the time. And so having just the women there cheering you on in this very intimate setting, it was always very memorable. It's just so much different than some of the other facilities that we swam at over the years. And it made for a really like intense competition for just a normal dual meet. Like this was not a conference or a national. This was just middle of the season. So that was cool.
Of course, Mike Chasson was your head coach at Arizona State. What memories stand out to you the most from having Mike as your coach?
I remember him being very down to earth and very straightforward. And that was something that I appreciated then. And I still appreciate very much in my career and in my, personal relationships now. And so if things weren't going well, he would sit me down and talk to me. Like he wouldn't fluff it. He wouldn't, and kind of lay it out. And I appreciated that. And I respected that from him. And so, um, when we would be going into dual meets, they obviously come in with a strategy and a plan on who's swimming which events. I had the ability to swim quite a few different events where a lot of times college swimmers are, they're primarily just a backstroker, they're just a breaststroker or something. I could bounce around to a couple different ones. And so he would often, I had my favorite events obviously, but he would come usually talk to me beforehand or right after they would post the schedule and be like, hey, these aren't your normal events, but we need you to step up in these areas. And so I appreciated that about him.
Now, when you weren't in the pool, what were your favorite things to do in your free time during college?
I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of free time between swimming and classes and studying. I was a pretty studious student. I definitely spent a lot of time behind a desk or at a table. I loved the campus. I still do love the campus. I thought it was beautiful. Palm was beautiful. I hope the Secret Garden is still there or it's still called that. I don't know if you've heard of it or have ever been, but I would, if the weather's usually pretty nice, I would try to study outside under a tree or on a lawn somewhere. And just be outside. I love the weather. I miss the weather. I understand the summers are hot, but I was here for it. I loved it.
Now, of course, as I mentioned in the opening, you were inducted into the Sun Devil Athletics Hall of Fame in 2022. Just for you personally, just what did that mean to you?
That It is a huge honor. I was very surprised when I got the phone call. It's an unknown number on your phone. You're like, do I answer it? Do I not answer it? The fact that it was the like Tempe area code, I was like, oh, let's see what like who could this be? And I was athletic director at the time, and I was like, what? Me? Really? Like it was such an honor, and to know the other athletes that had been inducted before me and the caliber of uh, you know athletes that they were and all the things that they accomplished, and for the athletic department to think that I also was at that caliber and should be amongst them is just so humbling, so honored to be a part of it. I will still name drop that fact if I'm trying to impress someone here and there. My fiance actually really enjoys sharing that fact when we meet new people as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it's a great thing. It is an amazing honor, and it's something really awesome to like have on the resume. Like you said, bring up in conversations, and you were
Yeah,
more than deserving. More than deserving.
thank you very much. That means a lot.
What is the overall impact that Arizona State has had on your life?
I kind of like what I touched on a little bit earlier, the fact that I left Texas to come to Arizona, and that Arizona is such a huge university, and that you get people from all over the country, all over the world coming to this university. I think opened my eyes to the world and to different personalities, different cultures, different um, ways of doing things. Like that campus, that university just has the perfect um, way to do that. They have the facilities, they have all the different things that you can study all in this one place, bringing all these differences, opinions, and peoples and cultures together. Has helped me grow it as a bigger person, and it is still something that resonates with me day to day when I encounter people that are different from me, or it helps me have a little bit more respect or a little bit more sympathy or whatever the case may be, because it's something that I was exposed to when I was much younger.
Hey, that's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear. Now, how did your work at SeaWorld come about?
Well, that is not as too far of a stretch. I grew up here in San Antonio, Texas, and my parents lived about 5 miles from SeaWorld. So when I was little, and my brother is 2 years older than me, and we were little toddlers, my mom would take us to SeaWorld in the mornings, have us run around and get tired. So this is like before we were school age, and it was just an easy place to go, have us run around. My mom loved the animals, loved the shows. She would not, and they also had the best playgrounds when you're a kid, obviously. And so she was like, all right, we have to watch the shows, and then after shows, we can go and play on the playgrounds. So we grew up watching those shows, and I eventually learned to love the animals more than the playgrounds. It took quite a few years, but I got there. And I saw the trainers interacting with the animals, and I was like, that is so cool. I want to do that. And I got older, but my dreams have always stayed the same. So even by the time I got to college, I was like, no, I still want to do that. So I thankfully, passing a swim test is the very first step into working as a trainer at SeaWorld. So that was a shoe-in for sure. And I was hired right out of college as a seasonal employee. And after about a year and a half, I obtained a full-time job. And I have been there ever since, which has been 16 years now.
Wow, wow, that's awesome. That is fantastic. What are your favorite parts about working at SeaWorld?
Um, there's a lot. So I am currently working with the beluga whales and Pacific white-sided dolphins. Throughout my career, I've had a chance to work with all the marine mammals there, the killer whales, the bottlenose dolphins, the sea lions, harbor seals, river otters. But being in the water with the animals is truly magical. I think most little girls have the dream. At some point, they go through a dolphin phase. There's the horse phase and then the dolphin phase. Yes, I had both of those. So most people are like, oh, swimming with dolphins, that's really cool. And it really is. And being in the water with the beluga whales or the Pacific white-sided dolphins is by far my favorite part of the day. Um, Definitely the swimming background, being comfortable in the water helps with that, but there's nothing else like it.
I gotta ask, do you have any favorite rides at SeaWorld?
Oh, I can't tell you the last time I've been on a ride. I liked them when I was younger, like, like middle school. But and once it got past that, it's all turned to animals. So my favorite things about SeaWorld are the animals that are there.
Now, last question here. What is the biggest piece of advice that you have for current student athletes that are in college?
This one I think about a lot actually because it was something that was told to me my freshman year at the end of my freshman year at our swimming sports banquet was the time goes by faster than you think. And as a freshman, I was like, whatever. But as I have gotten further and further away from my college years, they're so right. Your athletic eligibility is 4 years. That is it. Of how many years you may live in your lifetime, 60, 70, 80 years of your life, only 4 of them are going to be in your athletic eligibility. And so I just encourage any student athlete to make the most of it. And being a former athlete, I know that those practices, they drag. They wear, we don't want to do this set again. I'm tired. I stayed up too late doing things I probably shouldn't. You have 4 years. Make the most of them. Work hard. Work really hard because after those 4 years, no matter how much hard work you do after, it's not going to help you in your current collegiate career.
Well, that is some fantastic advice, Caitlin. And gosh, what else can I say other than thank you so much for giving me some of your time today, being able to chat with you, just truly an honor. So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Once again, thank you for having me. It means a lot that you are excited to talk to a former swimmer. We're, not one of the bigger sports that are often seen or covered. So it means a lot to me.